When the brilliant inventor Nikola Tesla died alone in a New York hotel room in 1943, agents from the FBI immediately seized nearly all of his research. Among his papers, they were looking for plans for a rumored secret weapon, a particle beam he called the Death Ray. What if I told you that the story of how your home is powered, how your phone charges, how our entire world lights up after dark, is rooted in a conflict so fierce and personal that it involved public smear campaigns, electrocuted elephants, and a battle for the very soul of the future? This isn't just the story of a scientific disagreement. This is the origin story of the modern age, a high-stakes war fought between two titans of invention, Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. And understanding their battle reveals why our world works the way it does today. Can you imagine a world without electric light? A world governed by the sun, where nights were lit by the flickering, dangerous glow of gas lamps and candles. This was the reality for almost all of human history. Cities were darker, homes were dimmer, and work stopped when the sun went down. In the late 19th century, progress was exploding. We had steam engines, telegraphs, and sprawling factories. But the night remained a frontier. Lighting was inefficient, expensive, and often deadly. Gas lines could leak and cause explosions, while open flames were a constant fire hazard. The world was desperate for a safer, brighter solution. It was waiting for a hero, a wizard who could tame the darkness. And it found one. Thomas Edison wasn't just an inventor. He was a phenomenon. Already famous for the phonograph and improving the telegraph, he was seen as the quintessential American genius. He wasn't a theoretical physicist working in an ivory tower. He was a practical, hands-on tinkerer who turned ideas into industries. His laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey, was the world's first invention factory, churning out patent after patent. Edison's philosophy was famously pragmatic: 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. For the light bulb, he and his team tested thousands of materials for the filament, from bamboo fibers to, believe it or not, hairs from a worker's beard, before finding a carbonized bamboo that could glow for over 1,200 hours. But here's the crucial part. Edison knew the bulb alone was useless. You couldn't just sell a light bulb to someone who had no way to power it. His true genius was envisioning an entire system. Edison's solution was direct current, or DC. It was simple and effective. A central power station would generate electricity that flowed in one constant direction through wires to homes and businesses. In 1882, his Pearl Street station in Manhattan lit up a small section of Wall Street, and it felt like magic. J.P. Morgan, one of his main investors, was among the first to have his home illuminated. To the public, Edison wasn't just selling light. He was selling safety, progress, and the future itself. His DC empire began to grow, block by block. But his system had a critical, expensive weakness. DC electricity couldn't travel far. The voltage would drop significantly after just a mile or so. To power a whole city, Edison would need a power station on nearly every street corner. It was a brilliant start, but it was not a solution for the entire world. The kingdom of light was, for now, a collection of small, isolated islands. And a challenger was about to arrive from across the ocean with a vision that was far more radical. While Edison was building his empire of wires and filaments, a young man in Europe was having visions, literal visions. His name was Nikola Tesla, and he saw electricity not as a brute force to be tamed, but as a cosmic symphony waiting for a conductor. Born during a fierce lightning storm, Nikola Tesla's life was steeped in a sense of destiny. From a young age, he was different. He had a photographic memory and could visualize entire inventions in his mind with such clarity that he could build, test, and modify them without ever drawing a sketch or touching a tool. He was tormented by blinding flashes of light that would appear before his eyes, often accompanied by vivid inspirations. Where Edison was the tireless worker, Tesla was the pure visionary. He studied engineering across Europe, becoming obsessed with a fundamental problem in Edison's DC system, the inefficient motors that required a direct connection, causing sparks and frequent maintenance. The solution came to him in a flash of genius while walking through a park in Budapest in 1882. Reciting poetry from Goethe's Faust, he suddenly froze, as if in a trance. He saw it all in his mind, a new kind of motor powered by a completely different kind of electricity. He grabbed a stick and drew a diagram in the sand for his friend. It was a motor with no direct connection, one that was powered by a rotating magnetic field. This field would be created by alternating current, or AC, a current that rapidly reverses its direction, flowing back and forth in a smooth, continuous wave. This idea was revolutionary. AC electricity could have its voltage changed easily using a device called a transformer. You could generate massive voltage at the power station, send it hundreds of miles with very little power loss, and then step it down to a safe level for use in homes. This was the solution to Edison's distance problem. This could power the world. In 1884, with a letter of recommendation to Edison that allegedly read, "My dear Edison, I know two great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man." Tesla arrived in America. He went to work for Edison immediately. The hard-working pragmatist and the eccentric visionary were a study in contrasts. Edison, with his rumpled suit and disdain for formal education, found Tesla's refined manners and talk of invisible rotating fields to be utterly impractical. The breaking point came when Tesla claimed he could dramatically improve Edison's inefficient DC generators. Edison, perhaps half-jokingly, offered him $50,000, a fortune at the time, if he could do it. Tesla worked tirelessly for months and succeeded, making vast improvements. When he went to collect his reward, Edison brushed him off, saying, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Tesla resigned almost immediately. He spent the next year digging ditches to survive, his genius unrecognized. But his dream of AC power refused to die, and he was about to find a partner who not only understood his vision, but had the industrial might to make it a reality. The stage was being set. Have you ever wondered why we call it a war of currents? Because it wasn't a polite academic debate. It was a brutal, public, and dirty fight for the future, with fortunes and reputations on the line. And Edison was prepared to fight dirty. After leaving Edison, Tesla scraped together enough funding to start his own company and file patents for his AC system. His work caught the eye of George Westinghouse. Westinghouse was everything Edison was, but in a different mold. He was a wealthy inventor and industrialist who had made his fortune with the air brake for trains. He was a pioneer in his own right, and unlike Edison, he immediately grasped the enormous potential of Tesla's AC system. In 1888, Westinghouse bought Tesla's patents for $60,000 in cash and stock, and a royalty for every horsepower of electricity sold. He hired Tesla as a consultant. Finally, Tesla had the resources and the backing to challenge Edison's DC empire. The war was on. Edison saw AC as a mortal threat to his business. His company had invested millions in DC infrastructure, so he launched one of the most vicious smear campaigns in the history of technology. His strategy was simple and brutal: equate alternating current with death. He began staging public demonstrations where he used high-voltage AC to electrocute stray dogs, cats, and even horses. He paid local children 25 cents for every stray dog they brought him for these gruesome displays. He published pamphlets warning of the dangers of Westinghouse's death current, making sure the press was always there to witness the carnage. He was trying to culturally brand AC as a killer. The term "to be Westinghoused" entered the public lexicon as a new slang for being electrocuted. It was a marketing war based on pure terror. But Edison and his team went even further. And here's a truly dark and little-known fact from this story. At the time, New York State was looking for a more humane method of execution than hanging. An associate of Edison, Harold P. Brown, saw an opportunity. Working behind the scenes with Edison's support, Brown designed and promoted the world's first electric chair, powered, of course, by Westinghouse's alternating current. The goal was to forever link AC with capital punishment in the public mind. The first execution of a convicted murderer named William Kemmler in 1890 was a horrifying, botched affair that generated terrible press. But the message was clear. This is what our competitor's current does. Westinghouse was appalled, reportedly saying they would have done better using an axe. Edison was fighting not with superior technology, but with fear. But the ultimate battleground wouldn't be in a laboratory or an execution chamber. It would be at the greatest show on Earth. By the early 1890s, the war of currents was at a stalemate. Edison's DC powered the dense hearts of major cities, while Westinghouse's AC was making inroads in powering smaller towns and rural areas over long distances. A single spectacular event was needed to prove which system would power the future. That event was the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. The Chicago World's Fair was a spectacle unlike any the world had ever seen. It was designed to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the Americas, and it was meant to showcase American ingenuity to the world. The fair's centerpiece was to be light. For the first time in history, an entire city would be illuminated by electricity at night. It would be a magical city of light. The contract to power the fair was the prize of a lifetime. Winning it would be a massive public victory, proving one system's superiority over the other. Edison's company, now merged into the powerful conglomerate General Electric, put in a bid for over $1 million. They assumed they were a shoo-in. Westinghouse knew he couldn't compete on price if he used Edison's patented light bulbs. So, in a stroke of genius, his team quickly invented a new, slightly different type of bulb to circumvent the patent. Then he made an audacious move. He drastically underbid General Electric, offering to light the entire fair for just under $400,000, less than half of Edison's bid. It was an enormous financial risk. If anything went wrong, it could bankrupt his company. But he was betting everything on Tesla's AC system. He won the contract. Edison's camp was furious. They reportedly tried to sabotage Westinghouse by preventing him from getting the necessary lamps. But Westinghouse rose to the challenge, setting up a factory to produce 250,000 of their new stopper lamps in record time. On the night of May 1st, 1893, in front of a massive crowd, President Cleveland pushed a golden telegraph key. In an instant, nearly 100,000 light bulbs bathed the white city in a brilliant, ethereal glow. It was a breathtaking spectacle. The 27 million people who visited the fair saw for the first time the power and beauty of mass electrification. They saw large machines running smoothly on Tesla's AC induction motors in the Hall of Machinery. Tesla himself was there, a showman in his own right, demonstrating the safety of AC by passing high-frequency currents through his own body to light up a lamp he held in his hand. The Chicago World's Fair was an overwhelming, undeniable triumph for Westinghouse and Tesla. The public had seen the future, and it was powered by alternating current. The war of currents was, for all intents and purposes, over. The victory at the World's Fair was the tipping point. The final proof of AC's supremacy would come from harnessing one of the world's greatest natural wonders. But for the men who fought the war, the aftermath would lead them down starkly different paths. The next great project was to build the first large-scale hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls. The commission overseeing the project chose Westinghouse's AC system. In 1896, with generators bearing Tesla's name and patents, the plant came online, sending electricity 20 miles away to the city of Buffalo. This was the final nail in the coffin for DC's dominance. Harnessing the power of nature and sending it across the country, this was something Edison's system could never do. Soon, AC power grids would spread across the nation and the world. The system Tesla had envisioned in a park was now a reality. So, did Edison lose? While he lost the war of currents, he certainly didn't lose his place in history. He was, above all, a brilliant businessman and marketer. He moved on, creating dozens of other industries. He played a pivotal role in creating the motion picture industry, improved mining technology, and developed better storage batteries. His legacy is not just in one invention, but in the very model of industrial research and development. Edison created the template for the modern corporation built on constant innovation. He died in 1931, a beloved national hero, holding over 1,000 patents to his name. And what of Tesla, the man whose vision had won the war? His story, tragically, took a different turn. Driven by a deep humanitarianism, during a financial crisis at Westinghouse, Tesla tore up his royalty contract to save the company from bankruptcy. In doing so, he voluntarily gave up what would have amounted to billions of dollars, sacrificing his personal fortune for the sake of his dream. He then pursued an even grander vision, a global system for wireless communication and power transmission. He began building a massive tower on Long Island called Wardenclyffe, believing he could send electricity through the air itself, providing free energy to the world. But his investors, including J.P. Morgan, pulled their funding. They had invested in a system to sell electricity, not give it away. The project collapsed, and Tesla suffered a nervous breakdown. He spent the last decades of his life in relative obscurity, living in New York hotels, his mind still overflowing with brilliant ideas, but without the funds to realize them. He died in 1943, nearly penniless.
So, who really won the war of currents? Is it as simple as saying Tesla won and Edison lost? The truth is, we live in a world built by both of them. Every time you plug something into a wall socket, you are tapping into the legacy of Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse. The AC grid that powers our civilization is their victory. But every time we see a new tech company systematically innovate and market a product, creating an entire ecosystem around it, we see the ghost of Thomas Edison. His relentless, market-driven approach to invention is the backbone of modern industry. The story of Edison and Tesla is a timeless lesson. It's about the clash between the pragmatic and the visionary, between the profitable and the profound. It reminds us that progress is never a straight line. It's a messy, human, and often brutal battle of ideas. And sometimes, the ideas that win aren't just the best, but the ones backed by the best story, the biggest gamble, or the deepest pockets. Why does this matter to us today? Because we are still fighting these wars. We debate open source versus proprietary software, sustainable energy versus fossil fuels. We are constantly choosing which future to power. The story of electricity is not over. It's a current that continues to flow right into our present and into the world we are building next.
What do you think? Was Edison a ruthless businessman or a necessary pragmatist? Was Tesla a tragic hero or a genius who couldn't get out of his own way? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. This is exactly the kind of conversation we love to have here at Origin Stories. And if you enjoyed untangling this piece of our history, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing for more stories about how our world came to be. Thanks for watching.